Hey there, Sooner football fans. Welcome back to Quick Slants on the OU Insider YouTube channel. I am Parker Thune. That is Jesse Crittenden. Obviously, fall camp is in full swing in Norman as the Sooners gear up for year two under head coach Brent Venables. And we're attacking fall camp from a bunch of different angles throughout the week here on OU Insider via the YouTube channel, as well as on the main page at ouinsider.com. So if you're not subscribed over there, that's the place to be for fall camp buzz, let me tell you. But we're going to hit a lot of fall camp storylines in this series over the next couple of weeks leading into the opener against Arkansas State. And Jesse, the question that we have on tap to tackle today is which position groups are under the most pressure to perform in 2023? And obviously, to a broad extent, you're coming off a 6-7 season. Everybody's under some pressure to perform. But looking at these position groups right now as they stack up this fall versus how they performed a year ago, which groups would you say are under the most pressure here as we get ready for year two under Venables?
Yeah, I think the top one is easy. It's the defensive line. I think that's easily the group that's under the most scrutiny. I mean, look at the numbers from last season. Only 13 sacks in conference play. And again, that number looks a lot better when you include the 6 sacks that came against Oklahoma State alone. So that means 7 of the other sacks came in 8 games. So they didn't even average a sack a game last season. The defensive line was really bad against the run. I mean, OU was 9th in the conference in rush defense. They gave up over 210 yards per game. There's just, Parker, you and I have talked about it to death, but that defensive line couldn't get consistent pressure in the backfield, wasn't good against the run. And here's the thing, we can talk all we want about defensive improvements and how we expect the defense to be better, but the most important part of any football team is that line of scrimmage, and the linebackers in the secondary can be worlds better than they were last year. But if that defensive line is not significantly better, it's almost moot to me. And I know they've added some transfer players. I expect some second-year players, some other younger guys to step up. But the defensive line just has to simply be significantly better than last year.
I agree with you, Jesse. And as I look at the offensive side of the ball, I never really worry about the skill positions at Oklahoma. Quarterback play is always strong. Elite in some cases. Some years you look, 5-6 years in the rearview mirror, you got Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. Those were the golden days of quarterback play at the University of Oklahoma. But even since then, and before then, dating all the way back to the turn of the century, it's been a very consistent theme offensively for Oklahoma. Strong play at the quarterback position. The same can be said for wide receiver. The same can be said for running back. And the same can be said for tight end. So those are 4 groups I never really worry about. I do think, though, the 2 that I would underscore, and you mentioned the defensive line, I think that is obviously an answer that has a lot of merit given the issues that they had up front a year ago. I'll throw a couple more at you. One would be the offensive line, simply because, and I don't know why this is, but it seems that Bill Bedenbaugh takes a lot of flack for the performance of his unit. And on the one hand, he chalked that up to the very high standard that was set in those 17-18 golden years. 2018, that line won the Joe Moore Award. So I think fans, much like the quarterback situation, almost became accustomed to elite offensive line play, and anything that fell short of that was something to take the position coach to task on. But obviously, strong play offensively starts up front. It starts with protecting the quarterback and opening holes for the backs out of the backfield. And so I don't question that Oklahoma's offensive line is going to excel in 2023, but I would say they're certainly under some pressure to excel nonetheless. And defensively, man, the secondary, it's been probably 15 years since we've been talking about the secondary at the University of Oklahoma as a true strength for this football team. And much in the same vein, Jesse, I see the secondary as a group that's going to be superb for Oklahoma in 2023. I think there's a lot of talent at both corner and safety, and I think there's tremendous depth. But is this going to be the year where they finally turn the corner? It's one thing to have that talent on paper. It's another thing for that to manifest on the football field and become production and become 3-and-outs, turnovers, all the hallmarks by which we judge elite defensive play. We have to see that in 2023 from the secondary. So those would be the two that I shout out, man, just because I expect them to be pretty good all in 2023. But on the off chance they aren't, that could very much have a trickle down effect on the rest of the roster.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think when you have a season like 6 and 7, there's almost a back to, you kind of have to go back to basics a little bit. And the reality is the line of scrimmage is what dictates every single play in football. And I agree with you on the offensive line. I thought the offensive line last year was fine. I thought they were fine, had moments where they were good. Obviously, the rush offense was one of the best in college football last year. I think part of that was Eric Gray was awesome. But you have to give some credit to the offensive line. But you look ahead to this year. I mean, you're getting a lot of guys back that I think you and I are both confident in. I think we expect big things from Tyler Guyton. I think Walter Rouse is going to have a big impact. But Savion Byrd is one of those guys that's in fall camp. Really seems to be he's making a big impact. He's in a lot of the first string reps. But he hasn't spent a ton of time on the field. McCade Matauer is a guy that I think the fan base was not overly excited about last year. He's going to have a big role. How about Andrew Rain? Can he stay healthy? Can he get a little bit more consistent? I think it's fair. And then, yeah, that's secondary. I agree with you. There's talent, there's depth, but a lot of those guys are young. And I think we think the world of Peyton Bowen, still a true freshman. Kari Vickers, Josiah Wagner, I think they'll see the field. Those are true freshmen. I think you can say talent and depth, but you're right. All that's on paper. And as we saw last year, OU was more talented than almost every team they lost to last year, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. A couple of things I'm watching specifically with that offensive line over the last couple of weeks of camp here leading into that September 2nd opener is where's the maturity level for Andrew Rain? Because I think that's been the big knock on him. Not necessarily his physical ability as he enters his third year as a starter at Oklahoma, but is he in the right headspace? Because that center position is a very intellectually demanding one, and there's a lot to be aware of. There's a degree of leadership that comes with playing center, and that's part of what made I think the mental acumen is part of what made Creed Humphrey so vital at Oklahoma and what has already made him so vital in his 2 NFL seasons to this point. Replacing Creed Humphrey has not been an easy task for the Sooners, and Rain obviously is the guy that now is it's been a while since Creed was on campus naturally, but Andrew Rain now fills the shoes that Creed Humphrey once occupied, and he's not going to be Creed Humphrey. I think that's fair. I don't think that ought to be the expectation for Andrew Rain, but can he be the anchor of the Sooner offensive line from that center position? Then you mentioned him as well, but Savion Byrd, man, he's been repping with the first team at left guard all throughout camp. It's Byrd at left guard, Matauer at right guard. And as long as he can hold off the charge from guys like Jake Taylor and Caleb Schaefer, man, Byrd in his third season at Oklahoma is going to have an opportunity to be a difference maker and be an impact guy. And he's always had that potential. He's a top 100 national recruit back in the 2021 cycle. So it's a prove it year for Savion Byrd, and he's certainly taken the right steps to this point. If you want to hear more on what we're hearing from fall camp, we've got another fall camp buzz video coming up that you'll want to check out. Who's standing out? Who's maybe scuffling? How do individual units compare to one another? We're going to cover it all over the last couple of weeks of fall camp here. Parker Thune, Jesse Crittenden here with you on the OU Insider YouTube channel. Again, go subscribe over at ouinsider.com if you want all the gory details of what's happening on the practice field. And let us know in the comments section what you want us to talk about now that the season is that close, just a couple weeks out from the opener against Arkansas State. What do you want a quick slants video on? Let us know in the comments section. We'll be looking out for your suggestions, and we'll see you next time here on the OU Insider YouTube channel.